Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Neil for another Batman video. We are doing a tier list I've decided to call the playlist the build up to the Batman. At the time of this video being recorded, we are 16 days away from the formal release in the UK. And we're just going to leave it at 16 days at the time of recording. 2 weeks at the time of the video being uploaded. Friday, 4th of March is coming a lot sooner than I think we all imagine now. But firstly, Neil, how are we doing tonight? You're looking forward to this one?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I am looking forward to it. Thank you for having me back.
No worries. It was an absolute pleasure to get you on last time. It was a lot of fun doing the video. The photos are up on our social media by now as well, so you can check them out. They went up yesterday for me and Neil's lists. Batman and allies is a very weird thing to talk about. It's probably never been done to have the allies in the same video as a Batman. But this time around, we're doing the villains, which is, I think, a lot more straightforward. We've got some surprise ones in there. We've got some villains that some might think, how on earth why are they even in this? Someone might say about one or two of them, and that's something we'll get into. But as always, we want to hear from you guys below in the comments. Comment your favorite Batman villains. Which ones do you enjoy seeing? Which ones did you not like doing? And there is a link in the description to the website where you can make your own tier. It'll be the exact same tier as this, just structured a little bit differently. And tweet us any that you do want to do, because maybe in a couple of weeks' time there'll be a Riddler to add to this, and another Catwoman. Who knows? What tier will they be in? We're not going to do an update video, so don't worry about that. But as always, if you do want to find our videos, what we're up to, what is coming up, the best way to do so is social media: Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Neil, I'm bringing yours up straight away. That is for your Twitter feed. To help people out get your comic on right now, just so they know where to be when Batman comes out.
So we are a fortnightly-ish podcast. We will have a Batman-centric episode that will be out a couple of days before the film releases. So we'll have to do that thing where I probably forget to say spoilers. Like I forget to warn people and then start talking about mild spoilers. But we'll try not to go too deep. And you can check out our website, which is www.getyourcomiccon.co.uk, for all the latest news and pop culture reviews.
Absolutely. So everyone do get on there. Also links in the description. And sort of like last time, we're gonna bring up one of the tier lists now. I'm gonna put mine first. So you're the guest. We'll let you round out the show tonight. That's gonna be the best way to do it. And I'm going to talk everybody through the tiers that we have and how this works. If you've never seen a tier list video before, they're on the screen now. And we have 6 tiers for this. So the top grading is the place to be. That is the highest of the high. And in these Batman terms, it is the Batcave. It's the one where everyone wants to be, unless you really are crazy and want to go to Arkham Asylum. Then you'll be right at the bottom. And the only thing to note for you guys at home for this one, we have kind of renamed the amusement mile to deserves better. These, certainly in the Ally video, there were a lot of characters who didn't get the screen time they deserved, or they didn't get enough. So amusement mile is very much it deserves better. The Iceberg Lounge is okay. Yeah, they were right. You enjoy them, they're all right. Wayne Manor is pretty good. Enjoy them. You'd have them there, but you wouldn't invite them down to the Batcave, not just yet. And then, of course, as we said, Blackgate Prison, send them there, lock them up, and Arkham Asylum for those you never want to see again in your lifetime. So they're the tiers. And talking about these films really quickly, obviously we're going with a theatrically released Batman film. So Batman 66, Batman 89, Batman Returns, Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Begins, Dark Knight Rises, Lego Batman. And because there wasn't a solo Batman film for Ben Affleck, unfortunately, the DCEU, we have picked 3 characters that he at least interacts with, which is Joker, Harley Quinn, Deadshot. And for completionist sake, we have added in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Neil, I'm going to really quickly put a spot. Just looking at the list of villains, any controversies at all? I'm very curious. It's trickier to pull up a list than I thought for these.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit stressed, if I'm honest. I think I'm glad you included the Suicide Squad people, just because they do obviously interact. And I like the completism of having Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in that. I suppose, to be fair, he did kill the Waynes, or directly was involved in the Waynes ending up dead. So, he's still a Batman adversary. There's a few of these that are really going to stress me out.
Yeah. I think that there's some that I love and have affection for.
Yeah.
That won't end up as high as I want. And there'll be some that are going to go quite low. And there'll be reasons as to why, and I think it's going to be varied. But with villains, you go to a Batman film, and I think it's safe to say him and Spider-Man probably have the two best sets of villains from
Yeah,
any comic book
easily.
character.
Definitely.
And I've always felt that as a kid, and there's a reason they're the two that have probably had the most live action films of all the superhero characters as well. And without further ado, I'm going to get into this. The heat is on. You said you feel a bit stressed already. As we always do, it's really hard to laugh at Batman 66 because it's such an incredible film. It's an experience, that film. I guess that's a polite way of saying it. And we're going to kickstart with these, which has a lot of villains. And growing up as a kid, you didn't realize that this was a take on a villain. I was like, this is the Joker, this is the Penguin, this is the Riddler, this is Catwoman.
Yeah, this is just how they are.
Yeah, and obviously with it being a TV show as well, to people at home, the way we're approaching this, we are going off the films, but I'd say the way it went last week, we kind of let a little bit of TV get in there, especially with the animated series sort of stuff. So, Cesar Romero. I'm gonna have to say the problem is there are so many. I don't think there are so many different takes on the Joker that the whole point of it is the take, but I don't want to ram the top row full of Jokers because it would be very easy to.
This is my concern, that I'm going to end up
Yeah,
ramming
there's
the top
so
row
many
of Jokers.
But Caesar. Okay, right. Caesar is going at the top, so I think
Bold start.
very bold. But the reason I'm doing so is that when you think of those 60s Batman characters, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There is at no point does one come on screen like I'm sick and fed up of seeing this person. Even on the serials, when you're watching the TV series, I've always point out they've got the box set behind me there. I've had it since it came out all those years ago.
Sadly,
the audio doesn't
the
work.
battery's died, so the audio's gone. Yeah,
it sounds like a horror film whenever I press it now. So I'm going to put Cesar Romero just because I think of all the 60s Batman villains, I think he's the standout. Now, whether that's performance or the fact he's playing Joker in the 60s, I think Cesar Romero brings his own to that role, which I'm going to say is about all of them. All of them end up doing this. And then, of course, we've got Penguin as well, played by Burgess Meredith. Obviously, a massive fan of Rocky on this channel. We've covered those films as well. And he's iconic in his own right. But he's better than okay. I think he's quite good. I don't think he's Cesar Romero's level. I think he's right up there in terms of his iconography, his image. But I don't think he had the impact. And I'm really torn of the Riddler as well because it's really hard to say anything negative about Batman 66. That's how I feel about that take, right? That there's no harm in not getting into this critiquing of the internet era and all that kind of stuff. It was made for families. It was aired twice a week. They got a film out of it. It was entertainment. Even once upon a time in Hollywood.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
And looking back, I think a lot of younger people, they might have seen it, but they know of 60s Batman. Even Lego Batman mocked it. Like, they didn't even let him be in Lego. They put the clip on of him being Adam West. And it's like a bit Riddler. And we're going to do a clean sweep. Riddler's going to join Penguin at the Anna. Only because I know there's never Riddler to talk about, and not just one in 2 weeks' time, one in about 10 minutes' time. And Catwoman, I think. So the Catwomans, for people that watched last week, is really tough because they are both a criminal, a villain, as we would say.
Yeah.
But they've always been a sort of love interest, especially in this one. You got the whole Miss Kitka stuff. I'm going to put her in okay, and I think it's only because she's not. Because there's the whole love angle of it. I struggle to see her as this, I don't think she's as evil as the ones above her.
Yeah.
Now
then,
I know that,
is that, not that I can remember, which is terrible because it's only a week ago, but is that where you put her in the Allies?
I think so.
Are you keeping her where you put her?
I think so, because I think she's a character that if it had been solely one, here's a heroic Catwoman, you'd probably end up near the top.
Yeah.
Here is I know it's not the character to be a hero, but when it's like split across two lists, it's really hard. Because last week I think I said, she's a villain as well, so I can't put her right at the top of an ally. And it's like an unlucky middle ground just for these two. But straight at there, 89 Nicholson straight at the top. So here's a story. So when I was a kid, do you remember DVDs before they were in plastic cases? You had the cardboard.
When they were in the little cardboard flap at the end.
Yeah. So when we got our first DVD player, I would have been 6. My parents bought the 4. Well, obviously now we know it was the anthology films. But there was a box set of 4 Batman films, all in the cardboard sleeves. Batman and Robin, fantastic cover, especially it's made for kids. That's what I always defend it. I say Batman
Yeah.
Forever is the same. And I never watched Batman or Batman Returns as a kid. I'm talking about like 5, 6. Up until I think I saw both of those two the same summer I saw The Dark Knight for the first time when I was 12.
Wow.
Because that's when I really got into it.
So kind of
And
2008-ish.
yeah, and Batman 89, I always remember the back of the DVD cover. It was actually a really horrible shot of the Joker. Not in terms of look, but it's like, why would you pick that shot to be your promotional shot? And it was the bit when he's in the street, the money, right? But it was like his head like looking up, and it was really awfully framed. And I've always had this horrible image of him as a kid because of that, and I was a bit confused. And it was so pale on the cardboard, I didn't think it was the Joker. I thought it was something else. But and that's a whole.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
I don't think we've got it anymore. That's a shame. But I would have brought it up. I've got them on Steelbook now. But Batman 89, Jack Nicholson. People will argue that he overshadows Michael Keaton in that film. I don't think that's the only Joker we're going to be saying that about. And there's a reason why top billing he is the guy to play this character for that iteration of the Joker too. I must add, if you were going to pick anyone in that 80s timepiece to play Joker, and it's got one of my all-time favorite behind-the-scenes shots, which is him on the chair. So Nicholson stayed at the top. We've got a fun. We've got Bob. Bob is the best probably henchman of all the Batman films, but he can't go at the top. But I'm going to put him here at Wayne Manor. I don't think he deserved better because he actually he was unfortunately killed. But to make a henchman a fan favorite, and I think like it's fair to say he's been like an icon as the decades have gone by, and every time
I've always wanted to find like a replica of one of those jackets.
Yeah, and it's the whole sequence in the museum is probably one of my favorite scenes of that film, actually, in truth. But
yeah, definitely.
Bob's just great, and is what you want from a henchman. You don't, you get like nowadays you get the face of CJ henchman, which I understand. You got to focus on villains, but when you're able to take, I apologize, I've forgotten that's his name, but when you're able to take a minor role and you get a legacy, it's like what the Star Wars films do. Like Star Wars films will make this minor character a bit of an internal legend, and that's I've always felt with Bob. So he's like the henchman.
Completely agree.
Danny DeVito. So going back to, obviously, I know we spoke last week, Batman Returns. We spoke about before we hit live. I think if I watched it today, I'd probably love it a lot more than when I lasted probably about 10, 15 years ago. I will be revisiting it before Michael Keaton's Batman. That's the only reason I didn't watch it in the build-up for these videos. I'm saving them for the Flash in November. But I love Dan. Am I thinking of Dan DeVito? Am I thinking of the Penguin? I'm going to be polite. I'm going to put him here only because I think it's fair to say I'm unfamiliar with the text at the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't think internally, I don't think I can just that's on me, by the way, people. So don't be too upset in the comments. But Danny DeVito's Joker is going to go there, and Christopher Walken, he's going there. I'm so sorry. Anything Christopher Walken is in, I will watch. Just look at his hair. Like he looks like right. The first time I saw this, I was gonna say he looks like a cat. Obviously, I know Catwoman was in it, but the first time I saw this as a kid, I was like, "Oh my god, it's the one from A View to a Kill." And obviously, he pushes Selina Kyle out the window. So maybe this is more the Christopher Walken. Actually, no, I can't do that. I'm putting him there. Sorry, I can't put him above Danny DeVito. Can I? That's really unfair. They're both legends in their own right. But Max Schreck is, and he has a pretty insane death. And I'm guessing you probably know the story that originally he was written to be Two-Face. And that was it. The electrocution at the end would have turned him into Two-Face, which, had it been Billy D. Williams, it would have been really cool. But it's Christopher Walken at the exact same time.
There's a really funny goof with that scene, which when you rewatch it, you need to keep your eyes open for.
What is that?
So when she leans in and kisses him with the taser, everything starts exploding around them, and then it cuts to a wide shot. And if you look at exactly where they are, you see the stunt doubles run out of the way before everything starts to collapse and run off the set.
Oh, that's amazing. I love stuff like that as well. And it always seems to be there's like nowadays it's a bit boring with the Mandalorian when it had the jeans man.
Yes, the jeans man.
It's like it's boring because they can fix it the next day. Honestly, whereas back then it was on reel. You can't do that. That is for the mass to see. There's no updates, and Yeah,
Well, there's
I
so
want
many
to know
scenes
that.
in Batman Returns as well where Catwoman is wearing flats because she's doing acrobatic stuff and then suddenly is in heels again. And they've never
Indeed.
bothered to go and take that out. And I'm glad that they didn't because it's the magic of movie making.
Yeah, and also, not every. I mean, I'm on to defend George Lucas's special editions. A lot of the changes, I'm fair. I'm more to it than most. I fully agree with the director being able to like revisit his property as the years go
Yeah,
by. I don't mind. I know that Godfather's just had it for Godfather 3, but there are some things like George Lucas, right? Here's a perfect example. The stormtrooper that bumped his head. What does George Lucas do? He put a sound effect on it. It's that
yeah.
kind of humor that comes with it, and I'm sure if Tim Burton really wanted to, he probably could change it. But that leads us on to Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Now, I think I was quite harsh on last week. I can't actually remember.
Yeah,
I
you were
think
quite
was
harsh on
she?
her, I think.
Um, I'm going to put her in Wayne Manor again. Well, the Batman Returns fans are fuming.
I'm quietly
Because I've
seething
put the
over here.
set. I'm going
I
to
will have my
sort of vibe.
revenge.
I'm going to vibe them off the fact that I've not seen the film in so long. I really like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. Now, some people want her to return. I think maybe there'll be an explanation of Michael
Yeah,
Keaton's Batman. Maybe there'll be
I agree.
something, but not stoking if I don't think will happen. But it is fair to say that Michelle Pfeiffer, was filming Ant-Man in London last year, and if they wanted to
She
put her
could
in
have
it,
stepped over.
they would have found a way. They would have found a way. That's always the best way. If they really want them in, they'll find a way.
Yeah,
And I like saying that about a lot of films. If they really want to do it, just look at Spider-Man. But no, Catwoman as a villain, she's threatening. It's the love interest, but it's the iconography, the suit, the fact it's Michelle Pfeiffer, the whole whip stuff. Like I will get to the other Catwoman later on, but I'm very excited for Zoe Kravitz just because I feel like we're going to get another new take on the character. But I feel like
yeah,
this
definitely.
one could be this middle ground of Anne Hathaway and Michelle Pfeiffer, and she might grow if we do get a trilogy or however they want to use her. It's going to be very interesting. But as I said, one film, Power Play. Obviously, we'll be ranking them afterwards. But then we move on to Batman Forever. Tommy Lee Jones. This is tough because as a kid, he's one of my favorite villains.
Yeah, I know
I didn't ever
exactly what
know
you
it
mean.
was.
I feel the same.
Didn't know it was the makeup. He was really cool. He was laughing, and I remember watching it maybe 3-4 years ago. It's like he's basically the Joker,
Yeah,
and
similar with Jim Carrey's Riddler as well.
yeah,
He has a very Joker-like laugh.
yeah, and these two were. I mean, obviously, they're behind the scenes. Aggro is one of the
Yeah.
best. Didn't he approach him at the stories that Jim Carrey went up to him in a restaurant and Tommy Jones
Yes.
called him a moron and told him to go away?
Yes, he did. And that was their
I
introduction.
knew.
That was the first time they met.
Can I let nostalgia really take control of this one?
I think you can. Go with your gut. Where do you want to put him?
I'm putting. He's going to the Batcave only because is he the most iconic Two-Face?
Well, when you think that there's another Two-Face in this list,
And
which is a
yeah,
much more grounded version, I actually would probably choose Tommy Lee Jones' version over
this
Aaron
is where I
Eckhart.
feel.
Yeah.
And because it's not dealing with an origin, it's not grounded. They can go that extra. I remember the video footage of them throwing the acid on his face at the court, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to see. And I love Tommy Lee Jones in it, and I just love them for like makeup for that era. Looked well. The whole hair
did.
vibe as well. The
Yeah.
whole purple and we've not put is it the young? Oh god, it's not young Cameron Diaz. It's the other one from
Oh, Drew Barrymore.
Charlie's Age. Yeah, we've got the young Drew Barrymore and the conscience character. I love the whole set design, everything. And again, like Joel Schumacher, I think was actually quite seriously underrated as a Batman director. Warner Brothers wanted him to make films aimed at younger people, and he succeeded in that. That's what I will always say. And Jim Carrey is going straight to the Batcave. It's Jim Carrey. I mean, you say was 94 the year he did Batman? No, Batman Forever is 95, isn't it?
Yeah, 95. Yeah, Batman and Robin was 97. Forever was 95.
Was it 94? Jim Carrey did Dumb and Dumber. Oh god, I have forgotten the name. Ace Ventura. He had the streak. He had this incredible streak, and I still think, to me, Carrey's one of the best comedians ever. Now, I've obviously put the original Riddler there. You can tell that Jim Carrey is very much influenced by that performance, and I don't think the world would be ready for a Zodiac type Riddler, which we feel like
not in 1995.
Yeah, yeah, and when we do get to the new one, it is very much going to work in that sense of things. But I think Carey is exactly who you want in a George Schumacher Batman film to play a villain. I say that, and then we get Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, who's also going to the top, because this is how I was introduced to Arnold Schwarzenegger, not Predator, not Terminator, none of that stuff. As a kid, it was Mr. Freeze. He had like ice shoes, he had his little ice cream bar, he had the wife, and his puns are
For
amazing.
some reason, he had slippers to keep his feet warm, even though he has to be cold.
Does he have an ice cigar as well? I can't remember. And
Yeah,
he's got his little ice car as well with the spikes, and I just love the suit. Like the actual suit looks incredible, and I know that Schwarzenegger, even the makeup. I don't know if he got skin damage from the makeup, but he spoke how long and tough that process was for filming this.
Well, and there's the scene as well where they put like an LED light in his mouth.
Yeah.
So it's towards the end of the film where he talks and his teeth are lighting up as well. I mean, there's huge. Say what you will about the film and the kind of the story of it and the execution of it, but the level of detail is insane.
I think the interview he spoke about was a battery leaked from those LED lights.
Yes.
And it's just like, and you got to think Arnie in the 90s as well, that sort of pay pocket. If anything happened to him, that'd have been absolute carnage. But I think one day, I'd probably say this. I think Matt Reeves, we haven't seen the new film yet. By the time this video goes up, at the time of recording, sorry, not by the time the video goes up. From judging what I've seen of Matt Reeves' world, I think his world would suit. I think he could do a Mr. Freeze. I think he could do a kind of Mr. Freeze villain based off what we've seen
in the press today is saying he wants to.
Oh, has he? That's interesting. That's very interesting. I think the world's ready. I think enough time has passed since Arnie, and I think again it's like I always call it the Arkham world. I feel like we're getting an Arkham era Batman now, and getting that live action. Go for Mr. Freeze. The time is right. Bring him in. And his accomplice, Poison Ivy, Uma Thurman. Now,
I think she was perfectly cast.
I think she was, and again, like as a kid, I didn't know Pulp Fiction. I knew her as Poison Ivy, and there's never been a Poison Ivy since. And I know that she seems like a drag icon now, isn't she? As well with that role, and you grow up and you realize that a lot of it is very much almost like drag, the character.
And this was the year that she also did the Hollywood take on the Avengers as well, the classic British spy TV series.
Oh, I don't know where I want to put her because she's either at Wayne Manor or the Batcave. Now,
you put her where you want to put her. Where does she feel like she really belongs to you?
Personally, she's. I said before, I was like, I don't want every single person to be on the top, but it's heading that way.
It's looking very top heavy.
I think because maybe we've never had one since she's still set a benchmark. Maybe it's been 25 years now.
They've just done a really interesting take on her in Batwoman season 3. She's only in a handful of episodes. But they use Bridget Regan, who you might know from Agent Carter. She's the kind of sleeper agent that was one of Agent Carter's neighbors in the first season. I think it's first season. And it's a really well written version of Poison Ivy. It's probably the closest. She's based on the Arkham version as well, so she looks like the Arkham version.
Looks like,
and it's a really cool take on the character. It's nowhere near this, like the Uma Thurman version, but it's a really interesting take on what a live action version of the Arkham one might be like.
I'll need to check that now. I've not seen any of the Batwoman stuff. I know there was the whole Ruby Rose drama stuff, which I don't know how that finished or whatnot. But the Uma Thurman stuff, you got to think about like if you're in the. I mean, I was only one when this film came out, but you've got to think the power of an Arnie and Uma Thurman in the late 90s as the two Batman villains with George Clooney. Yes, it didn't work out, but with George Clooney as Batman, that is a seismic force when it comes to casting. And I still look at that. That's still one of my favorite posters. They get
a great poster.
They get everything right. And I think Batman and Robin, it feels like the Star Wars prequels. The generation has grown up with it. And I think the people that despise it, yes, there's issues, of course, the bat nips and all that kind of stuff. But those that hated it, I think they're even probably more chilled out with it now. Because I think there's been so many Batman films that there's almost it's a different take on Batman. And I know we spoke a bit about Bond before it went live, but the common stuff with Bond, I think it was Cameron Dyson's channel that went through it, that when whoever is the current Bond, the Bond before gets all the abuse, and it's just a cycle that's always repeated. And I feel like a Batman now, without getting to Batman dynamic, but I've seen more Bane abuse now with the Affleck era than I had
Yeah,
back when he was that. And when
yeah,
Wayne was Batman, all the 90s ones, not Keaton, but Kilmer and them got abused. And I think even Val Kilmer actually gets defended a lot more now. I think a lot of people enjoy him more than they used
yeah,
to as Batman.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think I think in this film it's something similar with these villains, and hopefully,
But then that
I think
leads you to
Affleck.
Bane.
Yes, he's really bad, but I like what they did with him.
He
Now he
looks
is a
good.
henchman. He was like a wrestler, wasn't he? He's a tricky one because Bane was a new character at the time, comic wise as well, wasn't he? He's only been a comic for maybe 5-10 years or something. I don't think he'd
Yeah,
been
yeah,
around
he was
long.
fairly new,
And
but
I'm
then
gonna,
pretty seismic as well from what he'd done with Nightfall.
yeah, because he just,
With the
and he's
back
got a
break.
pretty pathetic death. He's got a pretty pathetic death as well. I'm gonna send to Arkham Asylum. I think maybe it
Ooh.
doesn't help. We've had. You just reminded me as soon as you mentioned Nightfall, and then I think of Tom Hardy's Bane, and then you really think of Bane in a gorilla suit dancing with Poison Ivy's not the. But he functions as a henchman of the film, and that's how I feel. Like he functions as the henchman.
Yeah,
I'm curious if Sam's watching this, who's been on Spider-Man. This is his favorite Batman film, and I'll be really curious to see what he thinks. But I feel a bit harsh about Bane, but I'm going to stick by that. Now, Mark Hamill's Joker, no conversation required. The definitive voice
no,
of the Joker. I know that he's not in Phantasm much, but you can't look at what he's done with that character. And you got to think as well, Luke Skywalker reinventing himself as the Joker. It's a very underrated thing, and Han Solo had Indiana Jones and Carrie Fisher did all the writing and other stuff, but Mark Hamill always got a sour deal, I feel, for people how
yeah,
they thought what they did post Star Wars, and it's only really been, I'd say, the last 15 years he's probably had that praise for his voice work, and those that obviously would have watched it back then knew, but Ham's going at the top. And the Phantasm, I've only seen it once, which was last week, and I wasn't. I will see it again one day, but I wasn't as bowled over as I was with a lot of other things. But I
okay.
really enjoy the concept of the Phantasm. I'm going to put it as okay. I feel that once the Joker comes into it, it becomes, a Mark Hamill thing, which isn't a bad thing by any stretch of imagination. But yeah, maybe that's, again, I'm going to put that down as one for me in the future to go back to, because I did like what the concept of the Phantasm is interesting. But again, just one viewing, bit
Yeah.
fresh. I should read into it a little bit more actually. And then I'm going to
Now you
arrive.
get how are you going to pronounce it? Are you going to go? Which way are you going to go with the pronunciation of this one?
Raise Al Ghul like that woman does. I always go with Raj Al Ghul. Was it Dakar? I'm going to go Raj. Liam Neeson's amazing. So I haven't told you this, I saw Batman Begins after The Dark Knight as well.
You mentioned that last time. Yeah.
So, as a kid, I didn't know they were all in sequence. I had Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, and there was a new one coming out of the cinema. And I remember before it came out, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know who Heath Ledger was at the time. I wasn't big on film. That was the film that got me into film. And I remember reading all the newspapers. How is this a 12A? This is outrageous. I remember reading like somebody gets killed by a smoke bomb in the opening scene. I was like, sign me up. Like I want to watch this. I'm 12 years old. And we went as a family like the day we came home from Spain. Changed my life. But and then we watched Batman Begins the day after, and obviously it ends with the cards. So
Yeah.
I think Liam Neeson's very underrated. I think he's a solid villain. I think he's got a fantastic plan. But I don't feel he's the elite tier. But his plan is quite elite. Actually, no, he is going to there. No, he's going there.
Mm.
He's the mastermind behind the film, and I feel like
Yeah.
maybe it's quite obvious now that he was alive, that he would have been the villain. But I loved the dynamic that he had to destroy his teacher. And I know the whole Batman doesn't kill, but I don't have to save you either. However, people want to read that, I have no issue with it. But then I think back to Dark Knight Rises. Now, I stupidly, this is the one film where I looked at every set photo ever made. And I knew that Liam Neeson had a cameo in the film. And I'd look back and think, I wish I'd never checked that. But the moment he spoke in that cage, that just did something. I was like, you know what? It's Liam Neeson before the action Liam Neeson. I think so. Of saying too, this
Yeah,
is before Taken, and
this is
yes, he
pre-taken. Yep.
was. When was Narnia? 05? Was this a few months before Narnia? Was he Aslan yet? I can't remember.
It would be the same year as, I think.
And me, as a prequel baby, this was Qui-Gon Jinn training
Yeah, I
Batman.
was going to
So,
say, yeah, to many people, he was just Qui-Gon Jinn at this point.
yeah, and Liam, I think a very underrated Liam Neeson performance, and I think this is maybe the credit for the writing of the entire film is what Nolan did with him, but just the concepts. I know they don't have the Lazarus Pit. I know that they do what they want to do with that and whatnot in the third film, but for Nolan's Batman, a solid Raj Al Ghul. It might not be as fun as the others at the party. He might be sat in the corner, but we have seen him already, burn down Wayne Manor once. So that gives us Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, and this is where I'm really torn because he ends up ultimately being a henchman, and I don't think Scarecrow's a really interesting character. I think a lot of people always say that they'd love to have seen this so-called third Tim Burton film. Was it going to be?
Would have brought him in.
Yeah, and it would have been the whole Jack Nicholson coming back for a cameo as well. And
yeah,
I think Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow. I think he's decent. 2 and 3 cameos, 2 cameos. Nice to see cameos. I'll add that. A bit of a. You could argue he's got legacy as the character, but when he ultimately ends up being a henchman, and I quite like how he gets taken out, but it is we get this incredible image of him on the horse, in the vision as well.
He's a nice kind of glue for this whole trilogy as well, which I really appreciate.
And then, because I'm a massive Nolan fan, seeing him cast Cillian Murphy and everything after always kind of makes this a little bit nice. It's like Cillian Murphy popping up in a Nolan film. It's kind of what we want.
Yeah.
And then we've got Falcone. Now, I think Falcone is the most underrated Batman villain. The entire motion of events of Batman Begins is on Falcone. Him being taken out of the game, in theory, that opens up for the Dark Knight. And I think he has such a presence from the few scenes we get of him, and you realize what he's capable of, the power he has. But I can't. I'm going to put him in Wayne Manor just because I think he has more of an impact than he should. Yeah. I think he does a really. And this is it. I know in the new film we're obviously getting. Oh God, what's his name? From Transformers and Big Lebowski.
John Turturro? Is it John Turturro?
That's the one. As much as I'm excited to see that, there's a kind of benchmark set for me, and it to me, I read it as it's the opening act fodder. Like, you won't see him past Act 1, but even the whole, that he gets Scarecrow, you get the amazing introduction of Scarecrow as well. I think solid, can't fault that. And Joe Chill, he did kill their parents.
He serves his purpose.
He serves his purpose. I think that's probably the best term. He couldn't have deserved better, but he does what he's there to do. I'm just going to put him in okay. He's fine. He spawns everything action. I love his stuff. I love the fact that Falcone bumps him off. Like, he shared a cell with him, bumps him off straight away. Really, again, it's that whole crime dynamic. And I think Joe Chill's quite interesting. And he ended up in, of course, Mandalorian as well, getting destroyed in that too. Joe Chill's a weird one because he is the reason he's Batman, isn't he? But he just, as you said, he serves his purpose. And Victor Zsasz, I'm not going to lie, I didn't really care for him in the film. I
doesn't have a lot to do. It's more of a nod to the comics, really.
Yeah, it felt like we need to show Scarecrow hiring these inmates that are going to be dodgy one day. We're not going to cover him in scars, which would look too weird for a Nolan film, but we can chuck him in there, and we do get a scene of a knife. So
I think it was that whole idea that they wanted to round out the wider world somewhat, but not. Obviously, we didn't have Iron Man or the MCU yet, but it was that kind of idea of, okay, at this point, we need to be thinking that people are looking and thinking, is this from the comics? Is this from the comics? Is this something that we can pull from later? So I think they were just world building more than anything.
Yeah, no, that's a really good term, actually, the world building. And he fits his purpose with, if you are going to show a villain for 2 scenes, it doesn't need to be around. Don't get me wrong, love Bob, but would a character like Bob be allowed to exist today, or would they get some well-known? Maybe they'd reboot Bob or something. I don't know. And then we've got Ledger's Joker. No conversation needed. Straight to the top. nothing more could be said that's ever been said about this performance, and I'll save that for the last part. And Aaron Eckhart's Harvey Dent, interesting one. Now, here's my sort of social and moral dilemma. Obviously, Heath Ledger passed away, which no one would have ever saw coming or known. A lot of people's criticism is always that Two-Face should have lived. Two-Face should have been in the third film. I think it's easier to look at that with modern film lenses of how they plan stuff. And Nolan is very much, I plan a film at a time. I'm going to put him here in Wayne Manor because I love the concept that the film is a degradation of Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face. That's the whole purpose of the film. And at times it feels a bit quick, but you see, and that's the point of Harvey Dent. He's always got it in him, but it's about getting it out of him and getting that Two-Face. And I think for him being, again, the most overused statement in history probably of film cinema now is the, hero and live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Yeah. And it's a great passation. It works for this. I'm going to put him there, but I don't think he ever had. Again, you're in the same film as Heath Ledger. You're playing second fiddle as Heath Ledger, the Joker. That's not. No one done. I think Aaron Eckhart's been I don't even want to say cast types. He's never really been able to go on to do much. He's just always going to be known as Harvey Dent now.
Yeah, he's not a face that you see very often.
Tom Hardy's Bane. Here's a tricky one.
It's getting very full in that Batcave.
I'm really. This is what I'm scared. I love Tom Hardy. I've been a massive Tom Hardy fan since I saw Bronson. Again, the hype for this film to me was instrumental. Nothing like it as far as I'm concerned. I think for Nolan's world, taking on Bane was a very interesting idea. I'm glad it wasn't the Riddler because, as Nolan said, it would have basically just been the end of The Dark Knight again. Just modern day terrorists blowing up stuff, but this one leaving maybe Riddler trophies, who knows? But I think for what they wanted to do, the physical decline of Batman, all that stuff, Bane was the perfect character to do.
Yeah, definitely.
But
perfect choice.
He does. I don't think I'm going to put him. I'm going to be biased again. Sorry, I'm putting this up. I don't. He ultimately becomes a henchman, but I look him as a secondary villain. That he is working with, not for Talia al Ghul.
Yeah,
and I think he has enough of a presence throughout. And again, just that Tom Hardy performance. I don't mind the voice. I quite like the voice.
Yeah,
I know it's a very controversial thing, but for what they wanted to do, I think that is the best version, and he has one of the best coats I've ever seen in cinema that I've always wanted. So he's going right up there. And again, just Tom Hardy is as good as Bale at physical transformations, and Bane or something else. And then we've got Catwoman.
I'm just suddenly going, where did I put her last time? Oh yeah, I know where I put her last time.
I know she's kind of responsible for getting Bane to break Batman's back, but I never really feel her there as a villain. So she's going to be my first, I think, amusement mile. Maybe because did she deserve better? Could we have seen more villain stuff? I think the performance is amazing. But I see her personally more as the love interest than a villain, as say. But as Catwoman herself, we get to see her involved within the plots. But then it's such a very quick turn to, let's overthrow the establishment. Oh no, I don't actually agree with this now. Some things don't work too much for me, but I like where they take it in the end. So I'm going to put that. I think as Catwoman, as the villain side of things, the whole clean slate thing, I don't like.
Yeah, no, me neither.
And I love Ben Mendelsohn. We didn't put Ben Mendelsohn in this video, but yeah, the clean slate, it's just a bit not too perfect to be true. That's the whole joke, but it's a very boring thing for her to be chasing after.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very in keeping with the character that that's something that she would do.
Yeah, it's a bit too weird. And then we've got Talia al Ghul. Oh, no. So I've always loved Marion Cotillard. Her and Eva Green are like
brilliant actress.
Yeah, and Rises post Inception. You've just done Inception, amazing film, one of the most interesting characters. Same for Gordon Levitt. But unfortunately, one of the most predictable villain turns ever done in history, aside from the younger actress spoiling it. Blackgate Prison. I don't think she's an abomination. She does have one of the worst deaths I've ever seen in film. I know we spoke last week about that, I think, but she kind of deserved better. But at the same time, from what we got, I don't think it was that good.
Yeah.
So Shizaka, I'm going to leave it there. I think it's a very tricky character to bring in your third film to be the final piece of the puzzle to
And also
pull the
not
strings all the
connecting
way.
her to her dad whatsoever, other than in name.
Yeah, if he's a spirit, he could have got seen or something, and the whole he went
Mm.
after her and he saved her, and that's all we get. Yeah. Oh, then we've got Zach. I can never pronounce his name. Zach Galifianakis Lego
Galifianakis.
Joker. I think he's really good. I like the plot. I know the whole purpose is that he wants to. The whole concept is that Batman can't live in a world without the Joker, which I know is very much like the Dark Knight. But for a Lego film, I didn't expect to get a Joker that layered. That's funny. That actually
No, I
has
know
a
what you
pretty
mean.
good villain plan. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to put him in Wayne Manor.
That feels right.
I don't think. I think by the end of that film, it's hard to critique a Lego film. It's about Lego, ultimately, bringing like Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. I think they did the best they could with him. But again, for a Lego film, yeah, I quite enjoy him. I like their relationship, and then we have the DCEU, Ben Affleck's one. We have Jared Leto's Joker. I'm sorry, he's going straight there. I know he does have his fans. I know a lot of people can be harsh on him, and I would say this: had Justice League not come out, I think would I have been willing to have given him what I would have been willing to have seen him have another go. Just saying, different director, different story, different this.
Yeah.
I think, given I still think I don't know how the original Suicide Squad would have turned out still, but the version we did get was not fair on David Ayer, who I think has made some very good films. I despise everything about the look of him and all that stuff. So the tattoos, all of that, got it wrong from the get go. I'd say that's actually on Warner Brothers more than the director because they allowed that to get that far. But when we got the Justice League scene last year, I was just so tired. Like, I don't know if maybe Jared Leto's become. I feel like the Joker's transcended Jared Leto into the meme he's now become, and that's a really weird thing to say.
No, I know what you
But
mean.
when he was cast as Joker, a lot of people that maybe hadn't seen his films, like, the musician, the singer, whatnot. But
Exactly.
I was
Yeah.
like, he's got the chin, he's got the face for the Joker, and he's won an Oscar at the time of being cast. But the whole method acting, was it the used condoms, the dead rats, and all that kind of stuff, to get 3 minutes of screen time, to then come back a few years later and you get one scene, and I really struggled with the scene. It's my least favorite scene of the Snyder Cut. I understood why it's in there because they're not going to be able to do it properly. They wanted to try and get everyone on board, but if that scene could have been played differently, I don't know. I think he had one more chance to me, and I'm gonna send him to Arkham. I know someone's going to tell me Reeve this is the correct way or something, but Margot Robbie, on the other hand, you can't not put her at the top. I think she's become the definitive Harley Quinn.
Yep.
I think the Suicide Squad, the mess of the film it was, she was the standout from that film by a country mile for the right reasons. I know they very much over-sexualized her. I know some people like that kind of stuff. Personally, I did think a lot of it was a bit weird. And obviously, then we get Birds of Prey, which I really, really enjoyed. I think that film is very underrated for the public. I know not a lot of people saw it. And last year's The Suicide Squad, which is, I think, one of the best comic films ever made.
God, that's scary to
And
think that it was last year.
last year, I know it's started again. It's that cycle, but Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, I think, is gonna. If this role ever gets recast one day, I'm sure it will. The benchmark will be an unparalleled high because of what she's been able to do for that character.
Yeah.
And then we've got Will Smith's Deadshot, who, he got a scene with Batman. They had a confrontation in the street. I didn't think Will Smith's Deadshot was that bad in that film. I thought
I
he was
thought it was
okay.
pretty good. Yeah.
It doesn't help that Idris Elba. I mean, you remember the whole Idris Elba's replacing Will Smith as Deadshot, and no, he's not. He's playing this, and it is quite tough to then see Idris Elba not play the same character, but feels like playing the same character, and it's Idris Elba being great. And I'm going to put Will Smith in deserves better. I think I'd have liked to have seen him have another go as Deadshot. I don't think anybody in Suicide Squad really got a fair chance.
Yeah, I know exactly what I mean. That's how I would say it as well. They all deserved another chance.
Yeah, because it's it's an ensemble piece, and obviously a couple of the characters. Rick Flag makes it to the Suicide Squad. He got a second chance, and I enjoyed that. Joel Kinnaman, not Joel Kinnaman. That is Captain Rick Flag. Oh God, Captain Boomerang. That's a character.
Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney. So one of the most famous rants I've ever done on this channel was on the Terminator Genesis review. I think it must have been like the first month or two of this channel being a thing. And I compared him to a wooden plank as an actor, and I've really struggled with him. But I really enjoyed him in Suicide Squad, the first one. He surprised me that I enjoyed him that much. And obviously, he got that one scene in the second one. I know he's not on this list, but it's that whole they deserve another go. And Joe Courtney kind of made sense to die. Like, it suited him, his character's died, but he got that second shot. And at that point,
it was a shot of redemption.
Yeah, it's like, you were a better one of what you had. And yeah. And then we've got a really controversial one. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Performance. Joaquin Phoenix is one of the best working actors today. As a Joker, I guess it depends how you want to view the unique thing with the Joker is that every take on the Joker has been different. There's, as much as I dislike Jared Leto's, just look at that photo of it. It's different. It's the gangster Joker, the pimp Joker, whatever you want to call it. They had a purple Lamborghini for some reason. You look at this one, which is, it's a Scorsese film. It was originally going to be produced by him until it wasn't. And
yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, it's a really interesting one. It's been, 2.5 years since it's come out now. I don't like this film as much as a lot of others. I really enjoyed it on release. I don't think he deserved the Oscar win over Adam Driver. And that's a very different conversation. But it's not okay. It's not deserves better. I'm going to be controversial and put him in Wayne Manor.
I don't think that's controversial.
I think
it's still very positive.
It's a Joker film. And on paper, should the Joker ever have his own film? That's the kind of question, isn't it? And people can say, a lot of people enjoy the film. That's fine. There are some issues I have with it. A lot of people think it's a rip-off of sort of, a Taxi Driver, all that kind of stuff. And you can read into all of that stuff. And it's certainly influenced by different eras. And Joaquin is an actor who, I remember when that first photo came out, I thought, are we going to, get more? And obviously it is an origin film. And by the end of the film, has become the Joker, I guess you can say, and it is an origin as such, but it's not, you look at every other character on the screen, it's not that kind of Batman. The Waynes are in it, they get killed. The whole dad story is a bit weird, I will say that, but that's again one of those films that dodgy leaks came out, and in the film it worked fine. Just people interpret them differently, and I'm going to leave him there. I know I've spoken a lot on this. I'm going to leave Joaquin there just because I don't think he has had, albeit he won an Oscar, I don't think his character has a patch on the other four up there. So yeah, that is a really balanced list in terms of symmetry. Anything stand out as controversial or whatnot?
I know I'm going to have a different view on Jared Leto. Not massively different, but somewhat different. No, I think we're probably going to have roundabout similar lists, to be honest.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? It's a credit to Warner Brothers and the production teams that they've never really had bad Batman villains.
Yeah.
Because even at the bottom of mine, that's not your main villain for said film. That's
exactly. Yeah, your main villains in each film are all top row, pretty much.
And I'd say the same for, I know it's not Spider-Man's in this. Most of the Spider-Man films have also been a lot big amongst that for me. So it is interesting. I think when you've got a rogues gallery that good and you can have such a variation it takes on a character, I would say it's very hard to get it wrong. That's how I feel personally about some of these characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is my tier list. We're going to obviously be at home, not familiar. We're going to re-rank. So when it's done, Neil's about to do his. Then we will rank ours at the end of the video. We'll put those lists in properly. But as always, Neil, I'm going to hand over to you. Is the pressure on? Are you feeling it?
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. But let's just go for it. Cesar Romero, up top, Batcave, has to be done. Absolutely iconic. I'm really gutted because they've just started releasing new McFarlane action figures from Batman 66, and Cesar Romero does not have a mustache. It's just a smooth white top lip. I feel like you should have left a little bit of a tash painted over white to be really truly Batman 66. Great in this film, great in the series, brilliant all round, absolutely brilliant all round. Frank Gorshin's Riddler. I can't stack the top row too early. It's just too easy to just fire everyone up top. So I think, again, iconic, absolutely brilliant in the role, brilliant in this film version of 66 as well. His riddles are absolutely insane. How on earth he programmed rockets to write full sentences in paragraph styling in the sky is beyond me. Clearly, he is a talented man. But he's not quite as iconic, I don't think, as Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
66 Penguin. He is the epitome of the kind of quacking, umbrella-carrying penguin.
It's the quack and the laughs, isn't it? It's so good.
Yeah.
And the fake nose. It's so blatantly fake nose, but it makes it funner.
He's just so random in this film as well, with the whole thing where he pretends to be the Commodore from the ship and goes to the Batcave, and they know it's him, but they're kind of pretending that they don't know that it's him. I'm gonna give him a Wayne Manor. He's good, but there is a better penguin on this list. I am gonna stick to my guns from our allies list, and I'm gonna put Miss Kitka in Blackgate. Which is purely based on I just find her cat noises too distracting. I don't need to hear her moaning like some sort of weird horny cat in the middle of a fight sequence. And because she's a complete one shot for this film only, she doesn't kind of have that relationship with, although she has a relationship that they build in the film with Batman, she doesn't have the relationship that Julie Newmar or Eartha Kitt's Catwoman do. So I'm gonna keep her there. She's not bad. She's just not quite to my taste. Obviously, without a shadow of a doubt, straight up the top, Batcave for Jack Nicholson's Joker. He is and will probably always be my Joker. Similarly to how Michael Keaton, I was saying last time, is my Batman.
Yeah.
That is, although I'd grown up watching reruns of 66, this was my first kind of big screen version of Batman, and he just scared the living daylights out of me for years. That whole sequence where he's on top of the cake and gassing everyone and people are just dying in the streets, it's just too much for me to handle even now. And the scene after he's shot his boss and he's just kind of smearing blood over the newspaper and doing the really maniacal laugh is just absolutely brilliant.
I don't think there's a single bad moment from him. I know a lot of people don't.
No, I don't think so either.
A lot of people don't like the whole he killed their parents, but
yeah,
you're not going to get a Joe Chill in the 80s. You're going to want Jack Nicholson to have done that, and also it's the whole Dance of the Devil in the Pale Moonlight. It works what they're trying to do with him, and it's great.
Yeah, it does. Bob the Goon, straight in Wayne Manor. As I was saying to you earlier, I had an action figure of him when I was younger. I had Michael Keaton's Batman, and I had Jack Nicholson's Joker, and I had a Bob the Goon that had like a karate chop action. It's one of those ones with a little lever on the back.
You press the button, and
yeah. So I just to this day, I still want one of those jackets. So Bob the Goon, best goon ever in a Batman movie, I think. Danny DeVito's Penguin is going straight to the Batcave. What just a total gothic nightmare. His version of Penguin is. It's crazy to think that that's probably more like 66 Penguin than say like comic book Penguin.
Yeah.
Or anywhere near what we're going to see from from Matt Reeves' the Batman, that version of Colin Farrell. Couldn't think of his name a second ago. We're never going to see another Penguin quite like Danny DeVito's, but it's just odd to think that he was still carrying the umbrellas and doing the quacking.
Yeah, I think as well. I don't miss
driving around in a giant yellow duck.
Danny DeVito was. I feel like he's one of the characters that I hate using the term like born to play a role.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito as the Penguin is one of the most obvious like clicks makes sense castings ever, and I remember like the image that I didn't like when I was younger. I was really creeped out is when he's eating a fish and there's like all the black. There's like that black stuff around his gums as well, and he's so revolting, and it works really well for what Tim Burton does with all of this stuff. And I actually really want to rewatch it now.
Disappears into it. Good. Yeah. So you should. I think it works best when the actor disappears into the role, and he very, very, very much does. Max Schreck, I'm going to put in Wayne Manor. I think he's a great foil for Selina Kyle and then for Batman as well. I think he works really well as a, Tim Burton never really did the mob side of Gotham so much. Although there was the organized crime bit around the Joker, it wasn't a major plot. And this felt like Tim Burton's attempt at showing there was some wider kind of corruption in Gotham. And I thought that for what it was worked really well. Michelle Pfeiffer, again, is there anything better? Absolutely iconic in the role, iconic costume. We talked about this last time, but from the moment that that huge piece of score kicks in and she starts trashing her apartment, she just owns it so much in that film. And I wish we'd gotten the solo Catwoman movie that they'd planned for her at the time. I'm sad that never happened. It would have been so interesting to have seen what more they could have done with her one remaining life that she was saving for the next Christmas. Which brings us. Yeah, so there was lots of talk about it because she was so well received at the time. And Tim Burton had said that he very much, I think, would have developed something for her, or at least kind of helped Warner Brothers to develop something for her. And they were absolutely down for doing something more, which is why they do that scene at the end of the film, which you may not remember, but where
the CGI when she comes up.
It's a dummy. It's actually a mannequin head. It's a mannequin. Maybe that's not the final version that they used. At least one of the versions that they shot of it, it's a mannequin head that just flips up. Yeah. And that was all to say she's still alive. There's kind of more to come from her. But it just never happened, and we ended up with Halle Berry instead. Glad she's not on this list. Tommy Lee Jones. Part of me wants to say he sort of deserves better, but I just enjoyed that film too much. So I think he's a Batcave for me. He's a Batcave for me.
If you've got someone like him, if his take on Two-Face would have been a Nolan, that would stand out like a sore thumb so bad.
Yes.
But it's what Joel Schumacher's trying to do.
Yeah.
And it makes it amazing that Tommy Lee Jones is quite a serious guy. Like, doing a film like this is so out of character as well. It kind of makes it.
I think that's why it works so well.
Two-Face.
Yeah.
No, it's such a great photo as well.
It is a great photo. I am really tempted to kind of just amusement mile, because in a way they did deserve to do more or do better, but they're just so iconic that they kind of have to go at the top. For all the same reasons that you said. I think it does bother me in the scene where Nick Murray is watching Two-Face attacking the circus and killing the Graysons, that he does that laugh, which is just so Joker. It's almost like they took a snippet of Jack Nicholson's Joker laugh and put it over Jim Carrey. It sounds so similar to me that it bothers me. But other than that, I really love the characterization of it. I like the way they worked him in to his connection with Bruce Wayne. I just think, just like you were saying about Two-Face, for what Joel Schumacher was doing, I just think he did it really well for that idea of what the world would be like.
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze. Do I want to Batcave him, or am I going to...
It's tricky with the Schumacher films because they're so wide.
So tricky. Yeah.
Because they'd never be done like that ever again. And that's why it's really hard to approach their characters more than the others.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna say it is pretty iconic, and they've never managed to really do another one since. I know they attempted it with Gotham, but never really to huge sort of success. But again, the costuming, everything that he went through to do that role, I just, no one. You can say the same about David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Nobody goes into it to make a bad movie. You end up in a situation like Suicide Squad where people see the theatrical version and say, that's a bad movie, I don't like it. But no one tries to make a bad movie, and they weren't trying to make a bad Batman at the time. They were just trying to make something that would sell toys, which it did. It appealed to me at the age that I was, and I had the action figure. And so, reflecting a kind of almost 66 style Batman, I think it does a good job. Similarly with Uma Thurman, I think she has to, just because we've never seen a Poison Ivy like it before, and we may never see another one like it since. But because that was kind of, apart from her very few appearances in the animated series, this was my understanding of what Poison Ivy was like for a long, long time.
Yeah,
By the way, I think someone is shooting some fireworks off outside my window, so apologise if you can hear that. Bane,
I'm
I'm
trying
going
to
to
think of
say,
oh,
deserves
the
better.
fireworks. It sounds like a pun, like it's a Joel Schumacher pun ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Just
is.
expecting like a
It's
grand entrance.
Joel Schumacher from Beyond the Grave telling me that he's happy that I like his movie. Um, I'm going to give Bane deserves. He's an amusement mile. He deserves better. I think, again, similar to what you said, he is a bit of a glorified henchman. He does not. He has a really lame death, being taken out by just having the pipe kicked off the back of his head. But I thought they did the look really well. I really liked the look. That felt. I mean, apart from the fact that he's a bit green, which was strangely Hulkish, uh, he looks costume-wise, at least, kind of like the Bane that you would see in the Nightfall comics. He's got the right size. He's formidable. It was just the weird. He's supposed to be almost super intelligent. So to have him walking around saying things like "monkey
He's like
work,"
a zombie, isn't he?
yeah, it just doesn't quite land. I do like the origin though. I really like the scene where
Yeah.
they bring out the really really scrawny guy, strap him down, hit him with the venom, and given that this is like really early days of sort of CGI visual effects, the way that they managed to blow him up, I think works really really well. So
I remember
he's
being creeped out as a kid when when he's like locked down, his body's like popping up, isn't it? And like all
yes,
like it's
yeah,
really eerie to watch.
and yeah, this it's that film almost starts out really well and then just kind of sort of slightly goes downhill from there. But I think it was a good origin, just an overall not the best take, which brings us to Hamill, who just where else would you put him? Say no more. Phantasm.
Oh, it's tricky. What is tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to weigh Man of Phantasm. I really liked the idea that it was somebody who was close to Batman, who didn't obviously know that Bruce was Batman, but they had this shared history that put them at odds with each other, but almost in a sort of similar mission, just different ways of going about what they were trying to do. I mean, at the end of the day, they were both trying to kind of rid Gotham of crime in some respect. It's just that one of them was doing it from a place of vengeance, and the other
Yeah.
was doing it to kind of honor the memory of his parents. So I think there's an interesting kind of concept there between the two characters. It's a character I would like to see more of, and actually, they brought Phantasm into the comics. There's a series going at the moment, um, Batman Catwoman from Tom King, that does include Phantasm as well, which is quite interesting. And it's kind of like a what would happen 20, 30 years later, where would Phantasm be? So there is kind of more out there if you're interested in the character. But it was nice, and I think quite bold, that for something that ended up being theatrical, they went with a completely new villain that they'd invented purposely for
Yeah.
it.
I quite like that though. That okay, you're gonna and maybe they knew we're gonna bring the Joker into it at some point because we are making the animated series a film. But it's
Mm,
like let's do something new, and if it's the environment of we're putting this money to make it into being a film, why not try something different and not just repeat a character we've seen a lot if we're already going
yeah,
to do that at the end? And I think it just makes it a bit more enigmatic because if someone that watched it for the first time last week as well, it makes it really more interesting on a rewatch.
yeah, definitely. So I go with the Batman animated series pronunciation on this one. So this is Ra's al Ghul to me. So Ra's al Ghul, I I'm gonna Iceberg Lounge, I think, and I would put him higher for all the reasons that you said. But the comic book fan in me is like, well,
He's not.
he wasn't wearing the robes. He didn't have a Lazarus pit, and it's
Yeah,
difficult for me to. It's like it's. I think the Liam Neeson version is a perfect Nolan version.
version.
It's that way of Nolan approaching a character from the comics. So I do struggle a little bit with that one, not quite living up to the fact of who he could have been, whilst still being a great representation in what Nolan's idea of Gotham was, I think. That's what I try and
Yeah,
rationalize in my head.
yeah, no, I can see it, and that's what I think makes it really interesting with him as well. That especially when you get the whole setup of Ken Watanabe popping up for
Yes.
like 2 minutes or something, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
ridiculous. Off the back of the Last Samurai as well.
Yeah.
Obviously he
Yes,
can
exactly. Because he was a
come in a
huge name at
section.
that point.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating one, and I'd say it's probably
I
quite of all
remember.
the
Go on. Sorry.
I say of all the Nolan villains, is Raj Al Ghul the most supernatural? Like him and Bane are
Yeah.
the two most obvious ones that are like, oh, that in the Nolan world, if that makes sense. It's
Mm.
really interesting when you see the takes on it.
Yes, yeah, completely agree. And yeah, the Ken Watanabe thing is that I remember thinking about that a lot, knowing at the time that there was going to have to be something going on between Henry Ducard and Ra's al Ghul, and the fact that it was kind of obvious from the start that one seemed to be more prominent than the other. Yet,
Yeah.
like in the comics, Henry Ducard is really a bit player who is is part of all of that League of Shadows world. But yeah, it was kind of obvious for me from the beginning that Ken Watanabe wasn't the real Ra's al Ghul, and then so it just doesn't quite work for me, even though I love Batman Begins so much. However, Scarecrow, I think, definitely deserves a Wayne Manor. I think, again, Nolanized version, so not quite what you would have got if it was a Tim Burton, or even what it would have been if it had been a Joel Schumacher, because I think he would have used him if he'd made another film as well. Both of those directors really wanted to use that character, so it's much higher on directors' agendas than maybe comic book fans' agendas, because he's not one of the A-listers, maybe. Probably more so these days than maybe he used to be, but
It's
um,
it's like a toy. It's like a toy box that you can take this character and it
yeah,
basically gives them the chance to do X amount of scenes however they want to do those scenes. It's a
yeah.
nightmare scene. The one thing I remember is the Arkham games, getting into it. I think it was Arkham Asylum at '08 or '09.
Yes.
Some of it was
Oh
fairly
wait, yeah. Oh,
'08, and
no, '09. Sorry.
it was like, oh, the Scarecrow's in it, and
Yeah,
it's the whole
those
the world's
sequences
falling
are
apart, and
outstanding.
yeah, and it's amazing that even when he pops up in the third one, oh, he's still well. I guess both Arkham version and this, so he's still going, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's probably I think there is something about him that must be quite appealing, and I don't want to say here's another Matt Reeves villain. Um, Maybe Matt Reeves is what I think. I'm so happy with the Matt Reeves film. I just keep saying every villain could be in his, and I wouldn't care. I'm just happy to. I mean, we're getting a Penguin TV series. They might bring in some other villains into that. I'm still not sure
exactly.
how I
Yeah,
feel about that. If I'm being honest, I've
yeah.
not seen all of
We'll
Gotham,
know
but
more once we've seen
in
it.
yeah, and in theory, there's already been a Penguin on TV quite recently. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that's true.
and the fact it's Colin Farrell though is makes it even more insane and amazing to think about.
Carmine Falcone, I think I'm just going to put him under the iceberg lounge. I think it was a great scratch in the surface of mob side of Gotham. I was glad to see them dive into it much, much more than Burton and Schumacher ever had. I think he's
Mm.
brilliant in the role. I love the scene where you've chosen the picture from as well, when he's talking to the young Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
He does the whole thing about saying, Joe Till told me what your dad was like when just
nice.
before he killed him, and he begged like a dog. I love
It's
that
the way
scene.
he says dog. Like it's
Dog, yeah,
and it's like oh, don't it's like don't come in here with you. It's how he delivers that monologue as well. It's like,
he's
and I saw
you completely
the
believe
first
it.
yeah what I saw recently. Oh God, have I forgotten the name of it? I forgot that's his name as well. The British film, the '90s comedy, the strip club one. Oh God, it's really embarrassing. I've forgotten it. Full Monty.
Yes,
Um, I saw Full Monty for the first time. No idea he was in it. I was like, "That's Carmine Falcone," and it made
yeah,
it funnier. Like when you just have those attachments to certain characters and whatnot. But I don't. This is what I love with what the Nolan was, a really tangent side piece, and I think Reeves is going to be the same because the whole comic book films are more accessible. They're more popular. Studios want
yeah,
to invest in them more. I guess the new one, they're happy for them to be even longer. You can start bringing in these characters and although they're minor roles, 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't have had Falcone being like 3 or 4 scenes. And it's
exactly.
like '05 point when they're starting to test the audience's measures. And when I was younger, I thought, oh, it's just a bog standard villain. I was like, oh, Falcone's actually got a reputation. And then, as the years are going by, and the whole Gotham Underworld, I think, is something the films haven't delved in a lot.
Mm, yeah,
And judging off the trailers, the new one, it might be the most we
I
ever
think
get
it's
of
about
it.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if this is going to be the detective film, as they do keep saying, then now is definitely the time to him to do some detective work on that underbelly of God.
Yeah. I mean, even if you go back to Batman Forever, they do name check Sal Maroni, who is then obviously in The Dark Knight,
Yeah,
as the person who threw the acid on Harvey Dent in the courtroom. So it's there. It just yeah, you can just see it progress from kind of a name drop to a bit part to let's explore this in a subplot.
yeah,
Which brings me to Joe Chill, who I think, yeah, he just like we said, serves his purpose, does what he does. Zaz, it feels it's a bit of. I'm going to say it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for a character that could be really interesting. He's there,
Yeah.
like we just said. It's world building. He's in it. There's not a lot. It doesn't really make an impact. Oh, I'm gonna Wayne Manor it. I'm not gonna Batcave it.
That's the. I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to listen. It's fine.
Well, this is the thing for me, and I know I said this because obviously I controversially put, Christian Bale in Wayne Manor rather than the Batcave last time as well. I stand by the fact that the Dark Knight to me is still a Chris Nolan film that just has Batman in it, and I think Heath Ledger is brilliant in it. I think he is a great Joker, and I love this idea of the Agent of Chaos, that you didn't give him an origin. The character himself tells every character in the film a different origin story for himself, and that he just dips in and out, without reason, just whenever the story kind of needs him to, but not in a contrived way. But I think for me, for where I was in kind of my exploration of the character in comic books and other media and stuff at the time, it's just not quite Joker enough for me. I don't feel like that version of the Joker would ride around in a parade and gas everyone, which feels so quintessentially Joker to me, because you kind of feel like Hamill's Joker would probably do that. I know Hamill is also the Arkham Joker, but like the Beathouse Joker would probably do it. The Arkham game Joker would probably do it. Jared Leto's Joker, Jared Leto would probably do it himself and part of his method acting for the film. And I think it's the way that Nolan interpreted the character. It's almost there, but not completely there for me.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because I think when you mentioned this, I'm scanning my head. The most of that Joker is a Jokerism a term? I don't know. But the closest you get to the pencil trick,
Which is a great
right?
scene, and probably my favorite moment of him in that film is the pencil trick.
And I could see all of a Hamill pencil trick would be amazing. He's probably done it in the voice, I'm guessing, at home, but it is a really interesting one with him, because it is that, you are right, it does move on from, this is, Batman Begins. I think the common argument is, as a film, a lot of people say The Dark Knight is the best film, but as a Batman film, a lot will say it is Batman Begins, and that is a very always interesting discussion, because I think they're both correct in their own way of those.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think obviously everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but there's a difference between it being the best film in the trilogy and the most Batman film in the trilogy, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna say I think he deserved better. I really like the way he plays him there, and I'm completely the same as you. I love the way that the Dark Knight is built to just, he's the White Knight, and let's just crush him to the point where he ends up with almost no choice but to end up as this character. And I really like the CGI as well. I love the completely implausible, ginormous hole in the side of his face. So I think they did the visual really, really well. But I almost feel like he's better as Harvey Dent on the downward spiral than he is once he turns. I think the scene in the hospital bed works quite well when he's talking to Gordon, and he's like trying to goad him into saying, what did they call me down at Major Crimes? What was the name that you called me? And I like that. And then I do like the scene where the Joker comes in dressed as the nurse and does the whole hi, and kind of they have their bit of back and forth.
Yeah.
But then after that, I just feel he goes a bit off-piste. I think it's probably like what you said, that it goes a little bit too quickly maybe at that point. It's kind of a sort of slow burn, and then it's just boom, and off it goes for the rest of the film. It's almost like the third act just put its foot on the gas a bit too quickly.
Yeah, it's when you get the sort of the countdown of killing the cops, because it's going to end up going for Batman and Gordon, and it's like one by one. And I think the downfall of Harvey is what makes it the whole series of Rachel's death, and even the origin's so well done. The whole, I always laugh at when the bomb goes off. It always sounds like a balloon, I don't know if you next time you're ever watching it,
Okay.
listen to the explosion on Harvey, and it sounds really weird. One of the bits, it's like a balloon pops, but
Okay. I will listen
it's
out for that.
it's really random. It's just something I've always thought of. But no, I
Yeah.
think you're right. And when you get to the end, I do like the fact Dark Knight Rises builds off the legacy of it. I like what they do with the
Yes.
in the next film that
Yep.
we've basically been corrupt and
The
all this
Dent
stuff.
Act.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting spring, but it does happen very quick, and
Yeah.
it's unfair to say, but does it go to I don't think it would have. I think he would have always done this, but if Heath Ledger had not have died, would we have had Harvey Dent in the third Batman film? So it wouldn't have probably been called Rises. And again, it's one of those questions we'll never have an answer for. I
Hmm.
don't think anyone wants the answer because I think it's just a
No,
bit.
no, I know what you mean.
It's
Exactly.
not ever needed. Yeah, it's not ever needed. Like some films do deserve answers, but it is a really interesting one with him, and it goes very quick. And he's not going to kill Gordon or Batman, and that's where you lose a little bit of tension in that final scene. But he is the
Yeah.
puppet of the Joker's plan, which is why I will always have to have the Joker above him because he was the Joker's
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in Blue Sky Ideal World, there's kind of it's almost like four films, and the Dark Knight ends maybe as he's broken out of the hospital, and then the third film, the imaginary third film, is kind of Batman versus Two Face, and then you get the
Yes,
legacy in the Dark Knight Rises. There's like a missing chapter in there somewhere that I think would have taken
yeah,
it from being great to being brilliant, but hey ho. I mean, I'm not going to complain about the trilogy that we did get because it gave us this guy who does go up here. Again, all the same reasons as you. Brilliant voice, despite what some people might say. Brilliant costume. That mask is scary as hell. I can't imagine
yeah.
what it must have been like filming with that on. But
You ever
Hardy
seen the
just
tan? You ever seen the set photos when they were filming once? And obviously, it's the end of the day. He took the mask off, and he's
no.
got tan lines of the mask. And it's made me think. I wonder how many months he gets to have tan lines around his head for just off that
Oh,
mask. That's
yeah,
quite an image to have as well.
yeah. That's another for me. That's another one where the actor completely disappears into the role.
Yeah.
Just beyond. I don't watch the film and think that's Tom Hardy. Afterwards, I'll think Tom Hardy was great, but I don't think it when I watch it. It's just Bane, and it just transcends the film. I'm going to keep Anne Hathaway in Wayne Manor, where I put her last time, for all the same reasons. I think the portrayal is pretty good overall. I think she has some relatively good chemistry with Christian Bale. I like the costume. I like the way they work in the ears. Very Nolan, very practical. Don't like the clean slate. I just don't see that being a Selena Kyle thing to do.
Yeah.
But I like all of the stuff about how she's just same reasons we talked about last time. The fact that she can flip from screaming to being completely cold and deadpan. But you've got that heart in there as well because she's got the kind of the street kids that she's looking after, and there's a lot to her character, and she really surprised me in that role. So I think she deserves a Wayne Manor, and I would have liked to have seen more of her as well. Actually, I would happily have seen
Yeah.
more of that character.
I I always wanted to see do you know the famous footage of the IMAX camera being smashed on the bat pods? Uh,
Yes.
s- you know, the whole 4 hour cut of the Dark Knight Rises. That's been a. I get really frustrated by 4 hour cuts. Discussions are sorry, that sounds really bad. Discussions around 4 hour cuts, not actual films being 4 hours long, and the whole concept of oh god, I was not to the point of what I was going to say. But basically, with the Catwoman stuff, it was like, oh, there's a 4 hour cut. Well, it's called a rough cut, and every film has
Yeah.
one. And
Yes.
people don't understand the logistics behind that. That it doesn't ever mean it was going to be that long. It's like the basis of A to Z laid out, and stuff's going to get changed. And um, I was going to say something else that's really good that I get annoyed with about things, but I've completely forgotten. So I'm going to hand back over. I'm trying to remember
Well,
what it was tied into.
we go from a character who I would like to have seen more of to a character I never want to see again.
Yeah.
And again, it's not her as an actor because she's brilliant in everything else I've ever seen her in. I mean, she's even convincing in her really annoying perfume advert that's on TV every 5 seconds at the moment. But she just was not. I don't know. She wasn't in the right place. The writing wasn't in the right place. It. I don't feel like this Talia is even. She doesn't have to be Talia. It could be anyone. Could have given it. Could have called her Miranda Tate all the way through the film. I don't understand what the motivations were, because we never saw much of a relationship between the father and the daughter for it to be a vengeance thing because Bruce had been part of Raish's death. It's just too. out of left field at the end of a trilogy that had enough going on already for me.
And I think it's a bit creepy, the actual relationship of her and Bane. Like, because they make out they're in, and this has probably since been discussed on it. They make out they're in love, but on that flashback, that is Tom Hardy looking good
Yeah.
in his 20s, 30s, and that is a 10-year-old. And I'm not,
Yes.
I'm not getting into that, but I've never been able to believe their relationship just off that. That's my.
Yeah.
I love the concept of the protector, the one in the prison, that it was a girl, that it was this, but they
But then it
could.
becomes like a brother-sister thing, not a romantic relationship.
Yeah, that's where I feel with it. And if it is meant to be a brother-sister thing, I never feel like we get told that either.
No, I don't know though. I know what you mean. Instead, it ends up being portrayed incorrectly. I think it's probably the best way to put it. Lego Batman Joker's going in Wayne Manor. Again, same reasons as you, actually, totally same page. I think never expected him to be quite as nuanced as he was. And Galifianakis does a really great voice, which was a surprise. And I think a version that I would have seen more of, would have happily seen more of if they'd been able to make a sequel to it. So I think very worthy of Wayne Manor. I'm going to put Leto in Amusement Mile, and I'm going to give some reasons. I do not like the tattoos. However, I appreciated that they were really trying to do something different and contemporary, and I can understand. I feel like I can understand what they were trying to do or what they wanted to do. I just think they ended up doing it wrong
Yeah,
somehow.
no, that's fine. Yeah.
Something about, like, I think if you'd given him, say he had like full sleeves and maybe the deck of cards that you can see on the neck, and at a push that the teardrop, I think it probably would have worked better. But the damaged thing, I think, was just like a step too far. And I feel like they did the same thing with Harley Quinn, that they gave her just a few too many tattoos at that point. And I really like the way that each time she's played Harley since, they've just taken off a few more to the point where there's not that many. And they've never really made a huge deal out of it. It's just been very, very subtle.
The problem I have with his, right, and this is really dumb. It's the damaged one, and
Yep.
it's the one you can never get rid of because of where it is. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense at all. And I'm with you on a bit. Imagery. He's got the face, the green hair,
Yeah.
the chemicals.
I thought they
It's
chose a really good
there.
shade of green for the hair, which I realize is very pernickety,
Yeah.
but it was a good shade of green.
It works on film, night scenes, day scenes, whatever, and it's just, yeah. Sorry, it's your.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. So I think there are certain scenes in the film where I really feel like he is the Joker, and I get it, and I like it. I even like the bit where he does the laugh with the hand over the mouth. I think that works. I do really like the chase scene with Batman as well, where she's like, "You're ruining date night," and she's kind of calling him like Batsy, Batsy, Batsy. I feel like when I watch that, I'm like, that is the Joker to me, and that is Harley Quinn. And I do really appreciate the scene in the director's cut, extended cut, where you get to see her chase him down on a motorcycle, and she ends up shooting the truck driver, and they have kind of an argument, and you get a bit more of the actual relationship the way it should be portrayed between the two of them, that it's quite an abusive kind of power struggle between them. But I just think they had an idea about what would work, and they ran with it way too far,
Yeah.
and that's why I
Yeah.
feel like he deserves better. I think the whole method acting thing is just weird. I mean, to me, as much as early days I was a fan of 30 Seconds to Mars, he will still always be the guy from Requiem for a Dream, which is one of the single most disturbing films I've ever watched in my entire life. And I can only watch when I'm in a very particular mood that I, for some reason, want to be depressed at the end of.
I've never seen that. I remember seeing it at college. Obviously, everyone's in Fight Club, so the whole "haha, Joe Lego's bad." That is quite a funny meme that does go around. Not to condone violence, but that is funny. I watched a really weird film when I was studying, and he was in it. It was like a time travel sci-fi exploration. It was quite Mr. Sandman, or that Mr. Sandman song was in it loads, but Mr.
Yeah.
Nobody, I think maybe. Something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
And I've not seen the film he won the Oscar for. Oh God, I forgot the name of it. Matthew McConaughey's in it with him. I don't know how I missed it that year, but
Yeah, no, I've
with
actually not seen that either.
with Leto, I mean, House of Gucci came out last year, and to me, that's a monstrosity.
You couldn't pay me to watch it, so I've not seen it.
It's, I mean, I don't think that is Leto's fault. I think that's a film that nobody knew what film they were in. You've got Adam
Yeah,
Driver looking
yeah.
bored. You've got Lady Gaga Oscar baiting,
Yeah.
and you've got Jared Leto being Jared Leto and Al Pacino being Al Pacino. And he became like a meme. And then he said that he claimed that the problem is when he's method acting, because of how over the top and how far he went for Joker, I think
Mm,
he went to a point of no return for being credibility
yes,
for method acting.
yes. Yep.
And for this, he said, sorry, not for this, as in for House of Gucci, he joked about like injecting himself with like margaritas flowing through my veins. And I'm there like, it's reached a point where you're so questionable. I don't know if you're joking or if
Yeah,
it's like the whole Rob Pattinson, like, I didn't get in shape to play Batman. And all the angry
yeah.
people on was amazing because Rob Pattinson just has them on strings trolling them. But Jared Leto goes so far. It'll be when Morbius comes out. We know we're going to get a quote about him sucking blood in his press conference
Yes.
somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
He will get asked that as well, and he'll give an answer, and I'll be terrified at what he says.
I think. I mean, how much do you know about the kind of the fandom that surrounds his band?
You know
So
what? My music knowledge is so dire. 30 seconds. I feel like they were on a Guitar Hero game once, and that's like the limit my music
yes, I
knowledge
think they were.
probably
Yeah.
goes. And I believe
So
was
when
he
they
the
were
singer?
first around, yeah, when they were very, very first around, they were not very big at all. Their first album, no one really, really knew, and they really exploded with their second album. Um, but like, I've, I really hope he never watches this video. I mean, I have all of his albums. I do appreciate him in this film. He is absolutely genius in Requiem for a Dream. Um, but I feel like he's believed his own hype for a very, very long time.
Yes. Yeah.
And the
100%.
way that their fandom was structured was like was like a cult. And there were these different tiers of fans, and they even in their merch, there were these like leather wristbands that you could buy, and different colors were different tiers of fandom. So there was like a fan club only one that was like white and red. Most of their colors were like white, red, and black. So there was like a black and white one for the low level. There was like a black and red one for the mid level, and then there was this white fan club only super tier
Yeah.
thing. And I've just always felt like there is a weird
Cool.
kind of cult around him and this weird I don't know, I didn't like
It
structure
comes from
to
the
it.
interviews. Yeah, it's when I think believing his own hype is probably the same. 'Cause when he spoke about his, did he get an SAG nomination for Gucci?
Yeah.
And to be fair, he put, people don't like it. That's fine. That's their opinions. Just like it. And they're like, he's not going to explode. He's not Ruse, but he is definitely making this noise because he wants to be. I feel like he wants to be the method actor guy,
Yeah.
and I don't know what it is. But
Yeah.
if anyone ever sees, I don't even say watch House of Gucci. Just like Google, just like some of his quotes, and what summed up is
The trailer was
Al
enough for me.
Pacino. Al Pacino did an interview. He spoke about Jared Leto, and it ended up being complimentary. But he just said, that proper husky voice is like this weirdo came up to me. I thought he was asking him for an autograph. He goes, and then they had to tell me it was Jared in makeup. And then he just joking, was like, I had to bow down to him for his dedication. I was like, he's probably been told to put the last 10 seconds in or something.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think believing is, I mean, the Paolo stuff is that's something.
I definitely recommend you watch Requiem for a Dream. Just
Requiem for a
watch it when
Dream.
you're in a very low mood and you don't mind being
I've
pushed
heard
down
that
even further.
it's got that song in it that everyone used for Eternity After.
Yes. It was
Yeah.
in the trailer for Sunshine and used in every movie trailer for like the next 10 years. Brilliant, brilliant piece of music though. Which, sorry, brings me back to my list. She's going up top because I love her. I love her kind of adoration of the character. I love how for a long, long time, every time she's been in costume, you get photos of her like reading every comic book. She can pull you the most random Harley Quinn reference from a comic book, and I love her for it. And I think she was brilliant in this. I think she was outstanding in Birds of Prey, which agree is so underrated. Brilliant film. And then again, just absolutely perfect in the Suicide Squad. I would almost, and I know we're not ranking them yet, but she may almost end up next to or very near to Keaton, Jack Nicholson. She's up there for me. And similarly, I think Will Smith deserved better as Deadshot. I think he was good in the film. I'd be interested to know what's in the version we've not seen. I thought it wasn't the kind of typical role that you would expect to see him in, and I thought he did it really well. Not Yeah,
It's a weird one
not
with
a lot
Will
else I
Smith
can say
because
about him.
he doesn't. He's on this. I mean, I know he's probably going to win the Oscar next month, but he
Mm.
went through that
Brilliant in that
patch
film as
with
well.
what was that film? After Earth. When he
Yeah,
went through that awkward patch of, I don't want to say bomb after bomb, but
it
he
wasn't a
got a
great
bit of a
run, was
runny.
it?
Yeah, and I feel like he's picked up now his bloody personal life. I don't. I'm not going to bring him out on a stream, but him and Jada need to learn where to park it and to leave it in the house. But then they decide to broadcast their house opinions online, don't they? So,
Yeah,
um, it's a tricky one. And I think because we had Bloodsport, I was getting mixed up. It's Bloodsport, Bloodsport with
yeah.
iChild, but it's kind of, I feel like it long term, it's kind of dashed any chance of Smith coming back.
I think he said
But
recently
even
he'd
though
do
I
it.
think Smith he want to do it, he did say he originally wanted to do it, and I feel like there was a discussion with James Gunn. But I
Yeah,
also feel with James Gunn is that he wouldn't want to be. I hate using the word trapped to um, and something else that's been done. But James Gunn likes his freedom, and I think
yeah,
he probably carried over not more than he wanted, but he knew who he was carrying over and why he was. And
yeah.
I think
I mean,
he did the right thing with Smith just to leave him because he probably would have killed him, and that would have been unfair on Will Smith too.
yeah, that's very, very true. And when you look at Suicide Squad comics, I mean, each time there's a new comic, or even each time there's a new arc within a comic, they change the roster anyway. So it's perfectly in keeping to have different people
Yeah,
every single time, which I think they may struggle to translate to a film because people will have their favorites, and they will
yeah,
be upset when they don't come back. But then
or
there's
get
always
killed.
the one or two guaranteed people, like Harley is probably always going to be there.
Yeah, and it's just she's taking a break or just from playing Harley with King because she did it to say she basically did it pretty much back to back, didn't she? Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey. I think
Yeah,
she
she did.
spoke
Yeah,
about that a little bit.
She
So
did those two completely back to back. So she's got a couple of years off. But I think the last interview I saw with her quite recently, she said she was getting the itch again. So I don't think it'll be long till we see her suit up again.
no,
And Joaquin Phoenix, I'm gonna I'm gonna Wayne Manor. I think I was really dubious about this film at the announcement of it because I don't feel like he's a character who necessarily needs an origin story. I mean, that's the whole point, is that we don't always know exactly where he came from, and the comic book versions never had a definitive origin. So it worried me that they were giving him an origin, but then I like what I saw. And I just
yeah,
in my head, as someone who's read comics for years, played the games, watched the cartoons and films, TV series, in my head, that's just one of the many worlds in the DC multiverse. And in that
yeah.
world, that is how that person became that Joker. And for me, it's an interesting character portrait. So I like what they did.
I think we're going to get a lot more of that. You mentioned the multiverse. I think by the end of this year, at least, the entire general audience will know what a multiverse is.
Yes.
And I think I know it's off point, but my question sort of then does become: Will these? Will we end up getting 2 or 3 Batmen or Spider-Men or Jokers or any characters at the same time and all that kind of stuff? But it's a weird one. It's a tricky one
Mm,
because it all depends how they do. Now, one film I think a lot of people have a lot of faith in, given that they just did No Way Home, and Doctor Strange rightfully looks beautifully incredible with Sam
yes.
Raimi at the helm. And Flash, I feel, is a dark horse. I think people's issues are the DCEU maybe more so than the film itself, and I think that is a valid issue to have. But when we get that first proper trailer, probably Comic Con, we're going to get Keaton back as well.
Yeah.
Potential if Flashpoint works and hits, Warner Brothers have basically I see it as the best get out of jail card they're ever going to get. It's like
Yeah.
Marvel's kind of they're like two sort of different trees. Like Marvel's I think done everything they can in their own universe now, and they need to start delving. They don't have to do a multiverse, but to take their characters forward, they want to delve into that stuff now. Whereas
Mm,
DC's is a really polite. This isn't working. It hasn't been the universe it should have been, which is the keyword should have been. Thanks, Warner Brothers. And we're gonna. I feel like there's some kind of plan in place. I don't want to say anything more than that because the problem is just DC. Warner Brothers keep changing their bloody presidents as well, don't they? So I think that's just the whole Warner Brothers structure that's an issue at the moment. But it's
I
like
also
Batman.
think I think there is also a kind of structural, I don't want to say issue, but difference between DC and Marvel in which DC doesn't lend itself to the same kind of cinematic universe that Marvel has. Because when you look at the structure of Marvel, Marvel doesn't have silos. Marvel has a house style which is overseen by kind of like a team of editors who oversee the entire Marvel line in terms of comics. Whereas DC has silos. So there's like a Batman editor, there's a Superman editor, there's a Wonder Woman editor, and they all work individually and they have their own individual books with individual tones. Whereas Stan Lee from the offset had everything in a similar setting, in a similar tone, so they naturally would flow between each other. And so although you obviously have Justice League comics, the Justice League comic is always a snapshot of each of those characters being kind of slightly watered down to fit a bigger story that they kind of have to be part of. Whereas when you bring the Avengers together, it's just a big story set in the Marvel universe. It fits together more nicely. So I feel in many ways DC doesn't, and this isn't a criticism of DC at all, because they will always be my favorite, but their characters don't lend themselves to that kind of shared narrative as much.
Yeah, no, I see that, and I think you mentioned as well that you prefer DC. I don't read comics like I used to. I used to read a lot when I was like 15, 16. I was really getting into it. And obviously back then it was picking up the, let's read the classic storylines of X, Y, Z. And
yeah,
I've always been obviously everyone's got their opinion. DC Comics is far and above Marvel Comics in terms of your storytelling and characters. I feel like it's a richer universe.
Mm.
And I think the whole film side of things is that, Marvel's got Kevin Feige, and some of their stuff does transfer itself to better film better. The environment, the colors, the settings as well. I don't think it's naive to say there's a lot more Marvel stuff set on Earth, but DC's got fictional cities, and Marvel's set in New York. You can go there. Gotham, well, we've got to borrow skylines from different cities around the world. And inherently, it makes it trickier, and it's a really fascinating discussion. And I think this year it's going to be, I hate using the term make or break. They've took their time with Flash. I'm going to leave that with their Warner Brothers. They've really took their time for this film to come out. And I really hope that's from some people get irate at things being delayed. A lot of the time.
Yeah, but it's always for the right reason, isn't it? It's to try and make it the best it can be.
Exactly. And it's like, real off point, Batman, the new one. Yep. The only reason it didn't come out in October last year is because they would have then been legally locked to put it on HBO Max on day one. So the whole, I think Matrix, some companies trying to sue Warner Brothers about the whole Matrix thing now, but the announcement of Batman moving to March 22, I believe, was a few weeks or 1 month before Warner Brothers announced the 2021 stuff, which makes me think they already knew. They were just trying to, financially, you're not going to risk. You don't want a Batman film to go online on day one. You want to watch,
but
that
it is
properly.
Actually, it's only going to be 6 weeks before it does do.
Yeah, for the 42 days, isn't it? I think every film's got that now. When I know that Disney are picking and choosing, like some they're going to let be out longer, but it's like Death on the Nile. It's that they're not going to. Why would they wait past 6 weeks to put that on Disney Plus? They're going to just get that on there for anyone to watch. Whereas something like West Side Story, they really took the time, 2.5 months. Season. So it's very interesting. And over here, we don't get HBO Max unless you know the loopholes. So
not until 2025 at the earliest.
Yeah, with Sky involved, but there are loopholes, people. I believe it's the old VPN trick, but you need gift cards or some. It's a very weird one. You can buy gift cards for HBO Max apparently that are in dollars. Therefore, your account doesn't have a bank account based in England. So I love seeing how far people are willing to go to do it, if they're doing it or just torrenting it,
which we do not recommend.
No. Like I said, do the loopholes. It's like when Disney Plus came out. It's like when The Mandalorian came out in the UK. Disney's like, this is a new show, The Mandalorian. It's like, we can already pick up its t-shirts from 6 months ago. So yeah, very murky, people, but there are legal loopholes around that, and we always suggest them. We don't even have Peacemaker's release date in the UK yet, which is incredible.
No, we don't. We will do very soon, though, I think. But that's the end of. I realise that's the end of my list. I'm done. I'm finished.
Perfect time.
I'm locked in.
I don't. To be fair, I'm going to be really polite. I don't have any. There's not a single bad controversial thing. You know what I love? I mean, let's take the obvious ones out, like the Jokers and stuff. All 4 Joel Schumacher villains made it to the top of both our tiers.
Yeah.
and I think that is something worth celebrating. And
Which their Batmans did not.
yes, that's what. And again, there are directors I feel that enjoy the villainous side of Batman more so than dealing with Batman himself.
Yeah.
And this one from Dark Knight, but there's a lot of fun to be had with villains, and if you're having fun with a villain, it probably, not that I'm a screamer, but I feel that knowing your villain and what their objectives are and what the fun you can have with them will help you write the Batman side of things or the superhero side of things. And it's always a fascinating thing because with Marvel, they tend to, if I'm going to sum them up, Marvel films tend to have better heroes than villains. They definitely have a villain problem. Whereas DC tends to be personally the way around sometimes, a lot of the time. So it's an interesting conversation, but that's going to round up the normals. Now, people at home, we're an hour and 40 in. It's not going to be as long as last week getting these ranks out. So I'm going to really quickly bring up mine to the screen. So if you are not familiar with it, we start at the bottom, and the one we want to rank the best will go to the far left of each tier. So my one, I almost just started clicking on the StreamYard website. I need to bring up Safari again. So Joker and Bane, I'm going to leave it as they are. Blackgate Prison, I'm going to leave as they are because, let's be blunt, Zaz gets nothing to do, whereas Talia al Ghul is a pinnacle moment. Amusement Mile, I think Will Smith deserved better than Catwoman just because we didn't get enough from him to warrant that.
Yeah.
And the Iceberg Lounge, Joe Chill will go there for the time being. He serves his purpose, probably more so than he ever could or should need to. But Phantasma's new character I thought was really interesting development. So I'm going to put that there. And this is the bulk of mine. This is going to get really tricky, isn't it? It's worse because you're starting, obviously, the most recent film at the far right, and you're having to take them through.
Yeah.
So it's really tricky. This. Okay, I'm just gonna do one at a time. I'm gonna put Joker there for the time being. I'm gonna put this Joker. I mean, it's so hard because it's a Lego. I'm gonna leave Joker there, being polite because it's an animated film. I'm gonna put Falcone up here. And leave Harvey Dent. Put Scarecrow there. Now, this is just my own bias that I will formally say I will watch these by the time Flash comes out. And if there are any videos about Batman near a Flash, I will go back and talk about this. But just because I've seen those two probably a gazillion more times than these two.
Yeah.
Bob. I think to make it into Wayne Manor is pretty incredible for a goon. So
it is incredible.
I'm going to be polite. I'm going to be really polite. Put him at the end. Getting onto this tier was probably the best possible scenario. This is really good. How do you compare 60s Batman to these?
I mean, who do you want to watch more? Who would you watch more of, or who can you go back to regularly? Probably both.
Well, this is it, isn't it? It always depends
for
on
different reasons.
Fun or I'm gonna put. I've got to take the Rocky bias out of it. I'm gonna do this. Split them up. I mean, no. I'm sorry. I don't want to put Joaquin over any of these.
He's going right false hope.
I need to sort through the Nolan ones because
Joaquin's crushed. You took it from the bottom of the list to the top and back down again.
Harvey Dent. I feel really bad about these three because I feel like I actually should watch Batman Returns now.
But I think given your, where you are with that film, I don't inflate them artificially because you feel like it should be better than you think it is.
And I know that I prefer these three to those.
Yeah.
Not Bob, but he's a goon. And then these. I think Falcone's the glue of that film. I think without Falcone, the film can't function as the origin. And he's going back to the scene you spoke about, the bar. That monologue, getting the guys to sort of rough him up a bit, chuck him outside, all that kind of stuff. What does he say? Is don't come here with the Billy. It's just his delivery, the talk down to Bruce Wayne in that scene is just incredible.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact line though. But then it's also the fact that he's he points out that there's a judge and a police commissioner, and he's like, "But I don't care. I could still kill you right now."
Do it. Yeah, and that's it. It's you can't buy fear or respect,
Yes.
one of the two. And it's the lessons of that, and ultimately the whole everything falls apart when he's in prison. So I'm going to put him there. I'm going to leave him there.
Mm,
I don't think he could be
I
justified
like
being a
it. I
tier
like that
above.
choice. That's a bold choice. I
Oh,
like it.
oh god, this is going to get hard now, isn't it? This top row. Okay, I'm just going to get this one out of the way for me
It's just
personally.
going to be
Move it
Jokers all the
there.
way, isn't it?
Ah, it is Nicholson there.
Don't forget Hamill.
Oh, but am I going for the film or the show? It's really tricky, isn't it? Film.
I mean, you get his origin in this film as well. You do get a version of an origin for him in
Yeah.
Phantasm.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm not doing the Jokers. I'm leaving them here just to filter through these. Ra's al Ghul's lucky to be there. Well, and this Bane and Catwoman would have made it quite a duo, I think. Probably actually would have been better than Talia. Oh man, right, okay. This is getting tough now. Jim Carrey's Riddler. I mean, it actually quite matches the Hamill thing there. That's working quite well. You don't think it would be Bane? I've not even spoke about the NFL scene, the
Brilliant
breaking
scene.
of the fight. I know Nolan gets his criticisms for fight choreography in those films, but the fights, the back break, the silence, the no Zimmer noise, Bane really went, and he is a threat. He is a threat for that entire film, and I never feel like any of these are genuine threats. So Bane's gonna leapfrog the Schumachers for the time being. Arnie has to stay there for his puns. Jim Carrey has to stay there for being Jim Carrey. Poison Ivy, I think it's fair to go there. Now let's talk Jokers / Harley. God, this is tricky, isn't it? Because they couldn't be any more different. I feel like I mean, I don't know. I suppose Cesar Romero. I'm actually story. He's so iconic. I'm going to put him here and be polite. I think getting a Batman 66 person up there, I think so. A bit like Bob, it's a crowning achievement to get a Batman 66 character there because he is a villain ensemble more so than a villain. Like he wasn't the sole villain of the film; it's the ensemble of all of them together. So
And
I
there
don't know.
isn't
This is a
really
bit
a
cheap.
leader amongst them either.
Yeah, and also you like seeing them together as a group.
Yeah.
I think that's what works. It's how they're together. Raj Al Ghul. I mean, it's really hard of these because he's arguably a better character than these, but they're just incredible in each of their own right. I don't want to really separate the Schumacher films; like they're all perfect. So then I have the Jokers and / Harleys. Now, this is tricky because Hamill's legacy as the Joker probably surpasses all, or at least on par with Ledger in terms of legacies. Obviously, long-term character, but just going off Phantasm, it's really hard. And then Harley Quinn basically ended up with her own film, which I don't think anyone could have ever saw. Being polite after Suicide Squad, she was the best one from it.
Yeah.
But the fact there was a film and there was another Suicide Squad, I'm
arguably the animated series that she's not in got commissioned because of the popularity of the character after she did Suicide Squad.
She's now going to be. We're now going to get the PS5 game. I know it's later another year, but the Harley Quinn. I've not seen the animated. So that's meant to be really funny, actually, from what I've read.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
I'm really anticlimactic. I'm going to leave it as it is.
Okay, he's locked. He's locking in.
Film wise, for the films, I don't think I can put Hamill above.
Yeah.
If it was everything, 100%. I was surprised. Margot Robbie is actually very high. I don't want to say. Maybe it's because her legacy, like she's still playing the character. It feels like she still feels new, even though she's technically current. But if you look at every villain, how many of them are still playing their character? You could argue, just maybe does he count? Are we going to get a second Joker film? I hope not.
Supposedly,
unless it's Willem Dafoe. And also, I've got Willem Dafoe's Joker up here. But that's me done. Anything stand out as controversial?
No, nothing. I completely understand the rationale for all of those.
It's true. Yeah, I mean the amount of clowns at the top. Does that not say at all about the quality of a character? That if you look at those, the
Yeah.
four Jokers, the five Jokers, six Jokers on there total, not one feels like a rip off of the other at all.
No, they're all
Yeah,
different in their own way.
yeah, other characters feel like rip offs of their Jokers,
Yeah.
which is a really interesting dynamic. But yeah, that is me done. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna get that sorted, and I will get that shared on socials. We don't have to wait as long this week, but in a few weeks' time, maybe there will be some more characters that deserve to be on there. Maybe in a few years' time, there'll be another Joker, which
Yeah.
is the big question because I think Matt Reeves has gone on record and kind of said that if you're doing a trilogy, you should expect the Joker's turn up or something like that. But Neil, I'm handing the pressure over to you. How are you going to
Okay.
make yours?
So Arkham Asylum will stay as is. Blackgate, I think, can stay as is as well. Amusement Mile, I'm going to put Leto up first, followed by Deadshot, followed by Two-Face and Bane, I think. Because I really would like to see him get a chance to do it and do it right. Same for Deadshot. I'm less interested in seeing more of these two, least of all Bane, I think. Iceberg Lounge, I'm going to put Falcone up first, followed by Raish, followed by Joe Chill. That feels about right to me, because I would love to see more of both of these two, but for Raish particularly, it would need to be in a more comic accurate rather than sort of Nolan world. Which brings me to Wayne Manor. So I'm going to, let's put him down here because he's animated. He's kind of lucky to be here. I'm going to put... Bloody hell. Okay. No distress is on. I'm gonna put him up because he definitely deserves to be really high up. He is great, albeit that there are things I would do differently. I'm going to put her up pretty high as well because I do think, again, great version of the character I would happily watch more of.
Can you imagine that Joker interacting with Catwoman too? Like how incredible that those scenes could be. I never thought of that till you've just put the two photos together.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, I'm going to move these two down for now. That feels about right. That feels actually. You know what? I'm gonna. I kind of want to leave Bob, but I kind of want to move Bob at the same time. Oh no!
It's the fact he's like made this list. Not only has he made the list, like he's managed to get quite high up in all of our stuff.
Yeah,
I love him.
I'm gonna. It's not fair to put him above 66. I'm gonna put him down here. And then, do I want to leave Scarecrow? No, I think I'm gonna leave Wayne Manor as is. So Joker, Catwoman, Shrek, Phantasm, Scarecrow, Joker again, 66. Bob. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna leave them as is. Perfect. So number one.
It's so easy to the number one, isn't it? Like the number one before you've even started.
I'm gonna number two. I think this is going to be easier to do in reverse order. I think. Definitely goes above. Okay. So part of me almost wants to put this version of Poison Ivy above Mr. Freeze.
Go for it. I mean, in theory, she's more of a villain. She kills his wife.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
No, she doesn't. Also, she doesn't. Does he?
Well, she knocks the power cable out, and they save her, don't they? I definitely think Riddler over Two-Face. I don't feel like either of the Batman and Robin villains should go above that version of Two-Face. I feel like Riddler and Two-Face are a better set of villains than Freeze and Poison Ivy.
They kind of succeeded in a lot of what they wanted to do as well.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all, because they still lose to Batman, but logically, they, no, there's no logic to it. They played the battleship scene. I love still. That is like Joker stuff, I think.
With the massive screen, love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, I'm going to lock in. I'm going to lock them there. I think so. Joker, Nicholson's Joker, Michelle Pfeiffer, Harley, Mark Hamill, Danny DeVito. Yeah, that's me. I'm done.
I
Anything
think
do you
that's
reckon
weird.
controversial in that list?
I'm going to take my thoughts out of it because obviously I'm just going to moan about Heath Ledger. Personally, I can't see anything at all. As you mentioned, the logic's there. It's like the iceberg. It's like you got like Joe Chill, who's when they serve a purpose and that purpose is served.
Yeah.
What more can you do in such a small
Yeah,
role?
because there isn't really a precedent, even in comic books, for him to do all that much more, unless you're
Yeah,
doing some weird Elseworld story,
and you
which
don't
none
want
of
him
these films
to.
have.
You
No.
don't want Joe. You don't want the Joe. Find out why Joe Chill became a life of crime. It's like a sketch gone wrong on a comedy show, isn't it? So, no, I like Cesar Ramirez's positioning. That's nice to see the '60s. Again, the '60s Batman, I don't think has. I feel like this generation's grown up without it, and I feel. I know it sounds really ridiculous. We were. I know we're not the same age, but that VHS generation who didn't have smartphones, who didn't have streaming services, I feel there are films that everybody watches because they had them on video,
Yes.
and those are the kind of films that don't end up on streaming services now.
Yeah. No,
And I
you're
think
right.
with Batman, Batman has become such an icon. Some would be like if you got Robert Pattinson's Batman put side by side with '60s Batman, that would look ridiculous. And I feel from like a marketing standpoint, it's like they don't want to speak about it, but people won't think that people will enjoy it. It's a really weird thing.
Mm. I
But
mean, it had
no.
such a resurgence when Warner Brothers managed to get the rights to it from Fox. It was a great day when they finally got the rights to it, so that we could actually, get it on home video.
And this is it. And there's so many of these stuff, and it won't just be. It'll be so many of these '60s shows, '60s serials that no one gets a chance to see. And they do show that. I remember when that box set came out, that was big. There was a lot of people had waited a long time for that, and I think that
Yeah,
was
a
when you know
long,
this.
long, long time.
And it's like they're like numbered editions, like '60s Batman is deemed a collectible, and there was the comics as well that were massive when they started. I remember that, and I know they're doing Batman '89 comics now as well. And it's really
Yeah.
interesting that they're willing to go back into those eras. That as the years go by, will they eventually call it Dark Knight '08 because everything seems to get time framed
Yeah, that's true.
nowadays. But that is our tier lists. This has been a delight to cover, to talk about. We said Batman villains would be very different, and we did love a lot of these. And I think
Yeah.
there's less controversy for any of them because let's be honest, Warner Brothers did a very good job over the years. The producers, the directors, all of it. So we want to hear from you in the comments below. Comment your favorite Batman villain. What do you disagree with? Have you been commenting along? We want to know all your thoughts on this video. And I said we're doing all this because there's a new Batman film coming out in just under 2 weeks in the UK. There's a lot of hype. There's going to be more videos on the channel. When we know what these videos are going to be, we'll obviously share details. But in the meantime, if you are interested for Batman, hit the subscribe button. Do like it. We're going to have reviews coming out for the new film, as always. And if you want to find us on our social medias, Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com. So Cinema Savvy, link to TeePublic in the description below. And Neil, get your Comic Con. I know we spoke about the start. Normally we get people speak about it at the end of the video, but for some of the characters we've spoke about today, do you have one or two maybe episodes or specials you'd want to push them towards on your website?
What we did given that we're talking about Batman, we did a whole series for Batman 80 where we did like our favorite movies, favorite cartoons, favorite games, and different podcast episodes. So if you are searching for some Batman content, I mean, we have quite a lot of Batman content to be fair, but there are some Batman-centric podcasts which are ready and waiting for you on our channels.
Definitely. So everybody, please do check that out. Again, thank you so much for coming on, for taking time out again.
Thank
just
you
like
for
last
having me
week.
back.
No, it's like, and if there's I don't know if there could be a third Batman tier list video. Someone somewhere is going to comment something that there could be one for.
Ranking Alfreds, just Alfreds.
Who's
across every medium.
Every version to ever exist, video games included. So there's a lot more Batman stuff. And when there is more stuff, we'll announce them on our socials. Neil, again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been delightful. And for you guys at home, if you're not into Batman, you wouldn't be at this point of the video. We are coming with 2 hours now. But, there are new releases coming out. We, of course, do new releases, older releases. We've got a big series starting into March with Spielberg. We've got, at the time of this video going, we're only a few weeks from the Godfather anniversary. That's going to be something we cover as well. And it's Oscar season. Lots of Oscar films to watch. We'll be announcing some dates on the channel. I believe the next one coming up is going to be Monday the 21st, which is going to be Tick, Tick, Boom. Yes, it's been out for a few months, but the OCD means that we must watch it, tickle off Andrew Garfield. So, once more, thank you all for watching, and be sure to join us on the next one. Take care.